All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock, we do have an interview. First, let me thank Dr. Thomas Crowley, board-certified ophthalmologist from Central Florida Eye Institute, for sponsoring this segment of AM Ocala Live. If you need any eye care at all, whether it's something as simple as an eye exam for new glasses or something as more complicated as corneal transplants, LASIK surgery, diabetic eye treatments, Dr. Crowley can handle all of that at the Central Florida Eye Institute, and they're not too far from where we broadcast from here at the mall. They are at 3133 Southwest 32nd Avenue, and give them a call, 237-8400. That's Central Florida Eye Institute, and thank Dr. Thomas Crowley for sponsoring AM Ocala Live. We definitely appreciate that. And one of the great things that we're able to bring you are great interviews like the one we have right now. Christopher Kelly is on the phone. He is an historian. He worked in the TV industry for nearly 20 years as a director and partner in local TV stations in Seattle, Washington, and Sacramento, California. So he probably gets the whole idea that I took a moment right there to do a live read for a sponsor. He's a contributor to his great-grandfather's memoir, which is what we're going to focus on. An Adventure in 1914 is the title of it. So let's find out about this and see what we can learn when we look back. 1914, wow, that was 102 years ago. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem that long ago, really. Oh, my gosh, there's a funny phone line here. Christopher Kelly, are you there?
Yes, I hear. I'm with you, Larry.
Oh, good. Yeah, there's some bad noise on this line. Oh, my gosh.
Can you hear me okay?
No, not really. No, there's some bad noise.
Should I call you right back?
Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind calling right back, I'll just answer straight to the air, okay? Okay, thank you. Jeez. Boy, that was annoying.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Whatever that was. Sometimes we have to deal with we couldn't do an interview like that. Let me just look for the light over here. Anyway, can you imagine? I mean, 100 years ago. Sometimes when you look at, have you ever looked at the comparison? Here he is. Mm-hmm. Good morning, Christopher.
Morning. Hi. Is that better?
Oh my gosh, that is a big improvement. Thank you for calling. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London, from the UK.
Oh my gosh, it almost sounded like you were at the space station or something.
Yeah.
I think actually you're farther away than the space station would be if you're in London. So do you live over there, or are you visiting there? What are you doing over there?
I do. I'm an American, but I live part-time in London. My son goes to the American school in London, and then I'm in Seattle when I'm in the U.S. mostly.
Oh wow. Talking about the presidents, and I'm not trying to get political here at all, but we were talking about presidents like a week ago or so, and we were comparing. You've seen this article, I'm sure, the odd similarities between Kennedy and Lincoln.
Sure.
And they were 100 years apart. And your story is 102 years ago, your great-grandfather's story. And
right.
Some of those things in the Lincoln-Kennedy comparisons were like almost eerily similar. And I'm wondering how similar, I'm sure technology-wise, things are really different today, but people on people, problems people have and arguments they get into, those kind of things, I'm sure that's a universal thing, right?
Well, I mean, this is, goes to the heart of the question of, does history repeat itself? And if you're talking to a Chicago Cubs fan, then they have a different perspective on this.
Right.
From 1908 to 108 years for that, of course, with the World Series. And then, of course, 1914, what are these similarities, these kind of eerie similarities? You were talking about Lincoln and Kennedy, but similarities between 1914 and today in 2016 are kind of interesting, and it might be fun to discuss.
If I were to put myself in your shoes, though, and I know you're talking to an audience here, so I don't know how you want to take this, but if I were in your shoes, I would have been so fascinated just by my own great-grandfather's writing. Did you discover it late in life? Did you not know it existed?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a gift to me from my aunt, who, of course, knew my great-grandfather. He died in 1946, long before I was born. And so for me, it was a voyage of discovery about my own grandfather and what his life was about. There are things that I mean, how much do we know about our great-grandparents? In my case, I didn't know very much, and
Right.
a lot of what I thought I knew turned out to be wrong. And it was only by digging into it and doing this kind of research and creating the book that I learned kind of the truth about his life. And it turned out to be, I'm a historian, and I found it really an interesting time, that a time of great transformation and tumult. I mean, maybe like today, that in the summer of 1914, the world basically changed when we went into World War I, which ended up involving almost all of the world. I mean, ultimately 17 million people were killed as a result of the war, and 4 empires were shattered. I mean, the Tsar's empire was destroyed.
Yeah,
Austro-Hungary was broken up. Germany, and also the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire, the dissolution of that created states like Iraq and Syria that we have, of course, today.
It really did change the world. And in 2 days, we celebrate Veterans Day, which is
That's right.
formerly known as Armistice, which was because of World War I. So, I mean, there is a direct connection still. So
Absolutely.
Did your grandfather write in such a way so that it was like, could you? Okay, how do I ask this? In other words, did he write like descriptively, so you could maybe smell the dirt on his shoes? I'm trying to be creative here, or something, or was it all factual stuff and political stuff?
I think it's a memoir, and partly it's a travelogue. I mean, he wasn't a soldier, and it's not a war story exactly. It's about his travel with his family. He's traveling with his wife and his 2 kids, his 11-year-old daughter, who is actually my grandmother, and his teenage son. And they're basically just on a pure pleasure cruise. They're just traveling through Europe. They're going to go hiking in Switzerland and see the Austrian Alps and the Italian Dolomites and things like that. And all of a sudden, the war breaks out. I mean, when they're actually on the ship coming over from America to Europe, that's when the assassination of the Archduke takes place.
Oh my
so
God.
they have no idea before they leave that anything is wrong or going to happen. And so that takes place on the boat, and then they decide to do their holiday anyway. Most people don't think that assassination necessarily means a war, but of course it does turn out to be the catalyst for World War I.
Yeah. Where was home for them at that time?
They're from New York. He was born in New York. He died in New York. Born in 1865 in New York. He went to Columbia and then graduated from Columbia Law and was a lawyer in New York.
Wow. What what was I going to ask? Was he well-to-do? Is he a lawyer? I guess he was well-to-do. I mean, if you could take a tour in those years to Europe, you must have had some money, right?
Yeah, I think he was in a privileged group, I would say. I mean, yes, but even he talks about a financial crisis. Again, something that's kind of familiar to current listeners and readers is that a financial crisis. Not only do you have a war and the outbreak of a war, but you have interest rates start soaring and liquidity dries up, and he can't even though he has means, he can't pay his hotel bill in Venice because people don't. It's kind of before wire transfers and things like that and credit cards, and he and hundreds of other Americans are kind of stranded, trying to sort out how to pay their bills and get back to the country.
I think sometimes, like when we look at old videos of people, we get the sense that we can be there with them. But somebody who takes the time to write it down, I'm guessing that's more detailed. Did you see? Oh, how do I ask this question? Did you see yourself in his writing? Did you see you know what I mean? Are there some family traits?
Yeah, no, sure. He obviously had a love of history, and he was interested in politics of the time, the current events, and are we going to go to war now, or is Italy? He talks about the issues of he's in Italy. He asks whether Italy is going to join World War I before, and he actually he's kind of a prophet and says that they probably will, and then this is before they actually did in 1915. So he definitely is. I mean, I see that he has that he and I share lots of interests today, and so particularly in history, I suppose. I mean, but for me, this is by far the most personal book I've ever written. It's not a traditional history; it is his memoir.
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then I'm just kind of bouncing off of I do provide an introduction and commentary, so I kind of provide context for the reader so they understand what he was what he was getting at too.
There was part of the notes told us that there was they were on a journey and they were stopped at the Lido Palace Hotel.
That's right, and that hotel still exists. I mean, the amazing thing that of course. I mean, he wrote about it. He said that Riva, which is this place on Lake Garda, Lake Garda is the largest lake in Italy. It's a canyon lake with these big mountains sloping down, and it's a very popular tourist destination with hotels and restaurants and so forth. And he stayed there, and he described it as one of the most beautiful places in the world. So when he wrote that, I said, "Oh my God, I've got to go take a look at this for myself." And I have to say, I agree with him. And it really is a beautiful place.
Oh, so you've gone too.
Yeah, so what I did is I retraced his footsteps and I took photography along the way.
Oh, I love that.
To see what does it look like, and then I have the old historic pictures and then kind of what it looks like today. And so that's when I'm kind of marrying up what he wrote about and what it appears like now. And I mean, at Riva, he actually was arrested by the Austrian. It was part of Austria at the time. He was arrested, accused of being a Russian spy, and threatened with execution that day. They said that we've got you, and we caught the other ones, and he had to talk his way out of that.
Oh wow!
All part of the book.
Oh my gosh! Okay, do you know you are doing something I'm jealous of? I want to do this. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I want to walk in the footsteps of my ancestors.
Right.
I don't mean Neanderthal. I don't want to go that far back. But
Sure.
I mean, I like the idea that you went back a few generations and actually walked those steps. That was such a cool experience. I mean, you can't go back, especially to a place you never were. But did you? I don't know. Did you get any sense? You always hear these stories. This is going to sound. I promise you, I'm not that wacky, but this is going to maybe sound like I am. Every once in a while, you hear a story about a kid who visits a town. And he says, "Mom, I've been here before," and then, he must have been reincarnated or something. Yeah. Did you get any of that at all? Did you feel like, oh man, I've seen this before?
Well, I certainly feel much more connected to him and to his life than I ever did before, by far, and to that time and the relevance of that time to our own time. So now I don't know if I exactly had a sense of deja, but I did stay in the same places. I also tried to travel the same way he did. I mean, like he went the slow route. I mean, he wasn't obviously flying.
Right.
I went by train. So and
that's
by
awesome.
steamboat and across the lake and so I went the slow route, which is was kind of the fun way to travel too in a lot of ways.
The difference would be that you have air conditioning in your hotel room.
Did your great-grandparents try to shelter your grandparents about what was going on because they saw soldiers in the street, they saw trains with cannons and other military supplies, and what did the children feel?
Well, when I grew up, of course, I knew my grandmother, and she would talk about this experience, and she would talk about how she was in Venice when World War I broke out, and how, for instance, they confiscated all of the horses because they were being used for military purposes, and also the way that her parents had bought, her dad had bought a round-trip train ticket, which was worthless because all of the railways were being used to mobilize troops. So this, round-trip ticket on French rail, was useless, and so they had to figure out another way to get home and all of that. So I in the back of my mind, I had the memory of what she had told me about this experience, as well as, of course, what he actually put down onto paper.
My notes say your grandfather's name was T. Tileston Wells. Am I saying that right?
Yes, that's right. Thomas Tileston Wells.
Thomas, okay.
Yes, a New York family. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he he sees these Swiss mountains, these alpine peaks, and he says, "Oh, that mountain is 3 times higher than the Flatiron Building," which is, it's only a New Yorker would put it that way.
Yeah.
And he lived a couple blocks from the Flatiron Building too.
And in those days, the Flatiron Building was probably one of the tallest buildings in Manhattan, I'm guessing.
It probably was, sure.
I think that's why it stood out for those folks back then. Okay, let me take a little break, and we will be right back. This is fascinating. I love this kind of stuff. Christopher Kelly is our guest, calling from London, right? You're in London?
Yes, I am.
And the book is called An Adventure in 1914. It is his great-grandfather's memoir, and I've got so many more questions, so let me just take the break, and we'll do that on the other side.
weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, intervals of clouds and sunshine. There can be a shower in spots before the day is through. High 75 to 79. Wednesday night, partly cloudy skies. Lows in the 50s. Inland 62 along the coast. Thursday, mostly sunny. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. For Friday, mostly sunny. The high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Central Florida Eye Institute is the area's leader in laser vision correction. From high-definition refraction surgery and LASIK vision correction to custom cataract, glaucoma, and diabetic treatment, you can count on Dr. Crowley and his effective, friendly staff to provide you with the quality care you deserve. Call 352-237-8400 for an appointment or more information. That number again is 352-237-8400. Looking forward to service your vision needs.
Are you an animal lover concerned about the black bear issue? Forest Animal Rescue is finishing construction of an 80-acre sanctuary here in Marion County dedicated to helping sick, injured, or abandoned bear cubs be returned to safe habitats in the wild, and you can be a vital part of this effort. Your contribution to Forest Animal Rescue will help complete the new on-site clinic. To learn more or volunteer, call 352-625-7377 or visit forestanimalrescue.org. Will you help?
Experience Christmas at Gaylord Palms, presented by Fujifilm Instax, November 18th through January 1st. Enjoy spectacular holiday decor, dining, and entertainment, including ice, with an all-new theme featuring a Charlie Brown Christmas, Cirque Dreams Unwrapped stage show, breakfast with Charlie Brown and friends, Alpine Rush snow tubing, and much more. It's everything Christmas in one extraordinary place. Tickets and overnight packages, including priority extra cool hour admission to ice, are on sale now at christmas@gaylordpalms.com.
Christmas time is here, and this holiday season, Gaylord Palms puts a brand new twist on a Christmas classic. It's Ice, presented by Pepsi, featuring a Charlie Brown Christmas by Charles Schulz, November 18th through January 1st. See the whole Peanuts gang carved in over 2 million pounds of colorful ice, including Snoopy's decorated doghouse, and dancing at the holiday play rehearsal. Your awe-inspiring experience concludes with the wonder of the nativity in ice. For tickets and packages, visit Christmas@GaylordPalms.com.
FlySanford.com. Orlando Sanford International Airport. We are SFB. Simpler, faster, better.
Visiting friends and family or just looking for some fun? Book your vacation now to one of their non-stop destinations, including Amsterdam, Brussels, Mexico City, San Juan, as well as over 70 domestic destinations, including New Orleans.
For enjoyable travel, come to Orlando Sanford International Airport. We are SFB. Simpler, faster, better. Before you fly, FlySanford.com.
All right, 23 minutes after 9 o'clock. Christopher Kelly is our guest. He has written a book called An Adventure in 1914. It is his great-grandfather's memoir, Thomas Tileston Wells, and it's the story of an American family's journey through Europe for safe passage back to the United States on the brink of World War I. I have a question, Christopher, as an historian,
Sure.
and about this. I was watching a video one time, and it showed the mistakes in movies. You know, you've seen these videos on YouTube, right? And there was a movie that was made in the 80s. I don't remember the name of the movie, and the storyline took place like in the 20s. I think, or late 20s, early 30s. And one of the actors refers to World War I. And then the narrator says, this is a mistake because in the 20s, that war was referred to as the Great War, not as World War I. Is that true? I mean, is that what was happening? Did nobody call it World War I until World War II?
I think that's, well, I believe that there were some people who actually did call it World War I before. I mean, but it was more commonly referred to as the Great War. That is, I think, true for sure. And then, I mean, obviously with the dawn of World War II in 1939, that it became much more common to refer to it as World War I with the, kind of ominous threat of World War III on the horizon. But there were people, I think I have seen that there were people who did refer to it as World War I prior to World War II.
Did your great-grandfather refer to it by name at all?
No, he just talks about it as the war, kind of. I mean, at the time. I mean, obviously, he doesn't know. I mean, he doesn't know, for instance, that the United States is going to be involved in it. He doesn't know. I mean, even though, I mean, he doesn't speculate about that at this point. I mean, this was written right. I mean, this is written in the summer of 1914. It was between September and say March of 1915.
Okay.
So and there are obviously lots of things he doesn't know about yet, but there are all these kind of ways that the world. I mean, like he didn't go with a passport even, and actually World War One. I didn't know this till I was researching the book, that World War One is really the war that changed the whole need for and introduced the need for passports.
Oh, really?
And you think about how that would be unthinkable today, obviously, to travel around without a passport. But in those days, it wasn't necessary, and World War One essentially that was one of the things that it changed.
I'm sorry. Were there any loose ends for you? Like maybe at the very end of his memoir, like, oh my gosh, I wish he wrote one more day. And if there were any loose ends, could you research and figure out what they would be?
Well, there was because it did his experience. It did change his life. He became the chairman of something called Serbian Relief, which brought humanitarian relief to Serbia, food and agricultural supplies to help to relieve the suffering in Serbia, which was invaded by Austria in the war. And as a result of that, he met a lot of interesting people, and he met Queen Marie of Romania, and he became the Romanian ambassador to the United States. And that was something that the one kind of real loose end is that he served as his consul from 1918 until 1941, and at that time Queen Marie had just died, and then Romania, which had been on the Allied side in World War One, ended up going fascist in World War Two, and actually declared war on the United States after Pearl Harbor. And so he was in a very awkward position where his boss, was, I mean, he had to, obviously that was the end of his as an American. I mean, he wasn't working for them anymore. But there was a something that I found that I checked with the Romanian government to say what did they think about him, and to kind of get a performance appraisal, and they said that he had been. They said a line that was written in 1938 about him that said that he had defended Jews' interests more than that of the Romanian government, and I found that very intriguing. And because at that time, and I thought I was writing a World War I book, but the question is, did he perhaps help some Romanian Jews to escape from the Holocaust? Because that would have been about to start, and I don't know the answer to that. So yeah, there was a loose end. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I mean that he might have been a mini Schindler, and I don't know whether that's true or not. But maybe he saved a few lives. I don't know.
The decorations that he is wearing on his photograph, were they given to him by the various governments?
I think it was, yes. He also was a big Francophile. He loved France, and he was awarded, I think, like the Legion of Honor by France, and I'm sure his government, Romania, did. So he does look quite distinguished in his as a diplomat, as a Romanian diplomat, an American who's serving as a Romanian diplomat. Yeah.
You will look like him. You have his features.
Oh, thank you.
I think.
Gosh, I just realized that we've spoken to you before. I was just looking at one of your other books here, America Invades. You've been on.
Yes.
Talk to us about that one. Okay, wow. Well, you are. I'm a fan. You really are a good writer. We haven't gotten this particular book yet, so now I'm connecting the dots a little bit.
And I just got it today, so I mean nobody has gotten it, but we will send copies out to you and other materials if you'd like to.
Oh, that's awesome!
For contest or whatever.
So before we run out of time, how do we get this? Do you have a website, or what do you advise?
They can find it at our website, which is at anadventureinnineteen14.com. They can also find it on Amazon and on Kindle as well. And it's just about to roll into Amazon and be delivered actually starting next week. So it's available right now.
anadventureinnineteen14.com. Oh, wow. Well, keep writing. I love your writing. So you're in London temporarily. You're coming back?
My son will graduate in about a year and a half or so, and then probably will be back in the States at that point. And,
Okay.
and we're working on another one. Yeah, we're working on America Invaded too, which is with my co-author. This one I did on my own, but my co-author, we're working on a sequel to America Invades.
Oh, wow.
As well.
We have our next guest is actually going to tell about life for a Japanese American man after Pearl Harbor's attack. So it's kind of like it's coincidence that we have the two interviews side by side. Christopher, thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, we will take a break. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Donald Trump capturing the presidency in